here. Today we're going to be doing a reading for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. We're going to look at their relationship and explore what makes them a power couple. What are the energetic strengths within their relationship that make them a power couple? So I'm going to be doing this reading in a style as though I were sending their relationship reading to them as a recording. So you're going to see me talking to them as though I were talking to you or anyone else who was getting a reading. For those of you who may not know who Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are, I believe they still have the title of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, but have left their official roles in the royal family in Great Britain and have struck out on their own. So we're going to look at some of the things within their chart that point to why that there was a need to do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just start. So I want to start by first welcoming you, Prince Harry and Meghan, to this reading. It is such a great pleasure to do this for you and to show you what strengths you have within your relationship, and also to just give you an overview of the dynamics between the two of you, and also to maybe confirm some things that you already know because of the decisions that you've made to leave the royal family or to leave your duties in the royal family, and why it was so important for you to do that. So before we get started, I just want to orient you to what you're seeing on this connection chart. Prince Harry, your human design body graph is over here on the left. And you see your keynotes that would be on your individual human design chart underneath. And then the astrological planets and the imprints of the I Ching gates on the personality and design side of your chart are also here, but they're over to the right of your body graph. Meghan, your body graph is on the right side of the chart with your keynotes underneath, and the astrological, the planets, and your personality and design gates also are to the left of your body graph. What you're looking at in the center is the composite of your two human design charts, as though it were a separate energetic entity from you two as individuals. So when you came together in relationship, you formed a separate energetic entity that allows you to function in a different way, or in an enhanced way when you are together, when you are functioning as a partnership. So that's what we're going to spend a lot of our time looking at. And before we do that, I'm just going to give both of you a little bit of an overview of some significant things in your individual charts that sort of color the whole reading. I'm not going to go through this as a full human design reading, but I want to just pick out a few things that will color and deepen your understanding of your relationship together. So we'll start with you, Prince Harry. You are an emotional manifesting generator, which means that you have this consistent, powerful energy to work in sustainable ways when you are responding to the things that turn on your gut motor. But you're not designed to act on them spontaneously in the moment. You have a fixed way or a fixed wave or cycle of emotions that you ride through that are kind of driven by this need for you to have experiences, have new experiences. So when you are listening to that gut motor, when you are following that gut motor and its response to things that come into your life, and then you take your time to really get emotional clarity before you make any final decisions or take actions, then that puts you on the path of what's most true and authentic for you and what's best for you. So you have this powerful energy, you have this desire for new experiences, and then up here at the top of your chart, you have a profile, which are these line values that are attached to the I Ching gates that are over here in your chart. You have a 1-3 profile, which is known as an investigative martyr. It is very, very important for you to feel like you have a foundation before you make a change. So you have probably taken this move out of your official duties or your official role in the royal family after much, much deep investigation, deep research, deep understanding of what that means to you on a very fundamental level. And then once you felt secure in doing that, that's when you probably felt that you were able to make that move and that change and experiment as the martyrs do, the line 3s do, with this new change to find out whether or not it's actually going to work for you. So this is kind of how you move through life. You're not a person who necessarily moves on a dime, or it's not necessarily good for you to move spontaneously and make changes in a spontaneous way. So I'm sure that you have taken your time and really understood that fulfilling your roles in the way that your role in the way that you did was not necessarily serving you in the way that you felt that you want to serve the world. Now, you have as your incarnation cross a right angle cross of Eden. So for you, people with the right angle cross of Eden sometimes, a lot of times, are born feeling like they were kicked out of Eden. So, you probably all your life have felt like there's this elusive paradise that you somehow know about, but cannot really see, grasp, or experience in your human life. And this sort of compels you throughout your life to create a kind of heaven on earth, or want to create a kind of heaven on earth, so that you can recreate Eden for yourself and share it with others. So you have this ideal about how the world should be, and at every turn you sort of have seen in your life how your ideal isn't necessarily being made manifest in your experience. So I'm using that as the backdrop. You can kind of see how you would be compelled to be a bit dissatisfied with what you're doing, where you're going, and in a way you were kind of looking for someone like Meghan to pull some things out of you, or complete some things within you energetically, so that you could move forward into creating the kind of world that you really feel is possible. So that's what I want to talk about for now with your chart. Let's move on to your chart, Meghan, and talk about some of the things that are going on with you. You are a sacral generator, which means that you have, again, this, just like Harry, this very, very strong motor for working. And your work, when you're really fully aligned with the mutative, the life-changing expression of your work, you can really you really have the talent to create the resources, to do the work that creates the resources, creates the money, whatever it is that you need to support your direction in life, which is this yellow diamond, is symbolized by this yellow diamond. So you have this work energy that when you're responding to those things that come to you, you kind of know in the moment what the correct things are because your motor gets going, and then you can move on those, and that will really assist you in creating resources, income that propel your or direct your direction in life. Which is very, very individual direction. It's a direction that changes other people's lives and empowers other people. And it's also a direction where you may not necessarily fit in with a lot of other people or with the status quo, so to speak. And we can kind of see that from, your social background, your racial background, all of that. You're not really designed in this respect to fit in with everyone else. You're here to break the mold in that way. And you also have throat energy and a strong mind, a fixed way of seeing things, a fixed way of getting ideas, a natural consistent sense of curiosity for other people's stories and expressing stories and expressing ideas into the world. Now, if we look at your chart, well, before we do that, I really want to talk about your incarnation cross and your profile. So you have a 5-1 profile, which is known as a heretic investigator. And I can see with this profile how difficult with this profile and with your incarnation cross as the left angle cross of refinement, how difficult and challenging it probably was to enter into a situation where you were forced on the public stage. Even though you did acting, you were an actor, you always had a way to kind of keep to yourself. So as someone with a 5-1 profile, people are always projecting their expectations onto you. And a lot of times those expectations are not necessarily accurate, and there have probably been all kinds of big and small ways throughout your life where you have felt misunderstood, misinterpreted. If we look at how you've been portrayed in the media, you have probably looked at that and really felt like the media doesn't really know you. And you, in some ways, don't really want people to know you because it's very, very vulnerable. Because when they have these expectations about you that aren't accurate, when they're projecting those expectations onto you, if you do not deliver, even if you didn't agree to whatever it was, if you do not deliver in the way that they're expecting you to deliver, then as a heretic, the proverbial heretic in your profile, the role that you play is that you get burned at the stake. You get punished for not being able to deliver something that you may not even have agreed to deliver. Now, maybe that wasn't the case when you married Harry and you thought that you could fulfill that role, that very public role, because sometimes it's not very clear to you at times what you can deliver or what you can really get behind or do, because you are also kind of living in this proverbial hall of mirrors of your own perception of yourself. But naturally, you're a person who really can kind of thrive when you go deeply into the details. You're kind of like Harry in this way, but for you, it's really more of a body thing where you really have to establish yourself in the ground. And that's the metaphor I use a lot with this line 1, is you really establish your stance from your own depth of investigation into something that works, that you can project through leadership out into the world. Like, you establish what you're about, you establish the solutions, to the practical solutions for problems. You establish a new path as a heretic, and then you're able to project that out into the world. And that's the ideal expression of your role or your profile in the world. But it's very, very vulnerable because you always have that risk of people projecting a lot of times their unhealed stuff onto you, that they're kind of working out for themselves, and you're sort of the scapegoat or the punching bag or whatever, until you really get you really get clear. Now, the thing that probably compounded your need to pull away from all of that projection and your public role as part of the royal family, is that your life path, your incarnation cross, is known as the left angle cross of refinement. And the most prominent theme that you are living out, that you're here to live out in this lifetime, has to do with privacy. Right up here at the top, you're shining out through your personality in the sun personality, the gate 33, which is the gate of privacy. And the entire left angle cross of refinement has to do with really being able to create refined living spaces, a refined place to live where you can live your life or have a certain type of privacy. And in doing this, you kind of create a sense of your own environment, your own household, where you can also be supported in expressing your individuality and your individual creative expression that will empower others through your example to refine the way that they're living. So there's this real big need for you to pull away. And that's what I want you to get from this little bit of an overview of what you're about. Now, here's the beauty of the two of you. If you notice, Meghan, your chart has 4 defined energy centers. And these are centers where you have consistent energy, consistent types of energy that you function from. So you have consistent work energy, you have consistent a consistent way of showing up in the world through this identity, love, direction, G center. Then you have a consistent way of expressing yourself, and you have a consistent way of thinking, a fixed way of thinking. If you notice your ajna, which is the thinking center, the conceptualization center, the green triangle that's connected to the throat, which is about expression and manifestation, doesn't connect to your work motor and your direction, your center for direction. There are 3 channels that would connect hypothetically connect your 4 centers, and that would be the gate 7, the gate 8, and the gate 13. So if you look at Harry's chart, well, first of all, let me tell you what that means before we go to Harry's chart. When you have 2 sets of centers where there is just one gate that would bridge those 2 centers, that would connect those 2 centers, you're always kind of looking for that quality in someone else, or feeling like you're lacking that quality within yourself. And you're usually attracted to people who have that kind of one of those kinds of qualities. And now if we look over here on Harry's chart, Harry actually has the gate 8 defined, which would bridge your defined centers, and there would be this sense of completion, this sense of energetic completion. Like, you don't need anybody outside of you to complete you, but energetically you probably are able to feel more integrated when you're processing information when you're around Harry, who is bridging that split. Now that split, if we look at that, or if we look at that whole channel in your composite chart, that is the channel of inspiration, the 1-8. And if we look at how that functions, it gets the energy of direction, love, and identity up to the throat for expression. And together, the two of you have this energy to make a creative contribution. So it's really a really powerful thing, and it's also part of this circuitry that has to do with individuality. Remember, we said that the 14-2 for you, Megan, was part of that individual not fitting in, here to empower, change others, change the way things are done, do things in a way that is totally correct for you but may not make sense to anyone else. And in doing so, you empower others, and you change the way that things are done on the planet. You mutate the way that things are done, and you mutate other people. Same thing with this channel, the 1-8, if you follow that line up. The creative contribution that you are able to make from your relationship together is designed to mutate and change and empower other people. So that is one way that the two of you are a power couple. Now, if we look here, Harry, at your chart, you also have splits. You have a lot of, well, let's look at your defined centers, and then we'll look at how those splits work. You have your sacral center connected to your emotional solar plexus, connected to your throat. So you have this powerful energy to do sustainable activities when you're very clear emotionally about them, that will manifest eventually as expression or through experience, and to talk about them as well. You also have spleen energy, the spleen center defined, which is very spontaneous, and it is also wired into a fixed sense of identity, love, and direction for you. If you notice, your spleen center, which is all of this vitality and spontaneity and knowing what's safe and what's not, and all of that, it's connected to your sense of direction and love and identity, but it's not connected to your sacral, your emotional solar plexus, and your throat center. The gates that would connect it, and you're like one gate away from that feeling of integration and connection within yourself. You have a lot of potentials where you could be connected through the gate 1, through the gate 2, through the gate 15, which is over here off of the G center, through the gate 20, which would take spleen energy up to the throat, through the 27 from the sacral to the spleen, and through the 34, which would connect into this 5710, and the 48 from the spleen to the 16, which carries that energy to the throat. So there are all of these potential ways that you could be attracted to someone else, or feel like you need a certain type of energy to process information, to integrate information, and to feel on an energetic level more complete, like all of your parts are functioning together. So we look at Megan's chart here. Megan completes your splits. So a lot of your splits. So let's look at the gate 1. We already talked about that ability to make a creative contribution, or that potential through the 1-8. There's also the gate 2, that you have this 14, possession in great measure, where you have all of this ability and power to do work for money that supports your individual direction, to do the activities that create resources that would support individual direction and empowerment in that way, but you don't have the two to actually direct that energy into a direction. Meghan has the 14 too, and this is actually known as a compromise in your relationship. So we're going to save that for a little while, but just know that that may be one of those potential attractions that brought you together, that make you feel complete, but it can also be a little bit of a challenge, and we'll discuss that at the end. But let's go on with the splits. You also have you have the 44. She has the 26 coming off of her will center. So this creates a great amount of attraction through the channel of surrender. Willpower gets defined within the relationship. And the two of you together have the willpower, or potential to have the willpower and instinct to accomplish things that can nurture, persuade, influence people with your message. So this is very influential. It's also known as the channel of sales. It's part of the circuitry that leads up to the throat, that's about business and material success. So there's a lot of energy in here when you come together to use that instinct and that willpower in your relationship to persuade others, to nurture them, to influence them with your message, which is usually concerned with the cultivation, or getting people on board to cultivate material success for your tribe, for whatever tribe or community that you are creating. So that's a strong power couple attraction right there, the 44-26. And the other one that bridges your split, Harry, is Meghan's gate 27. So the two of you together have this channel of preservation. And you have, Harry, the energy to, with the gate 50, to uphold values, or to know what's valuable, or to feel that the values, that there are certain values that need to be passed on in order for your community to survive and thrive. And this has to do with education. This has to do with, how we act together, how we treat each other, how we nurture each other, how people on a very fundamental level get nourished. And Meghan brings that 28 of nourishment, or the 27, this gate 27 of nourishment, into and connects with your gate of values. And together, you have this energy of preservation. And preservation is about knowing what needs to be preserved, and knowing what values, what needs to be preserved, what needs to happen in order for people to be nourished in the way that they need to be nourished, for them to understand and learn and be upheld by the values that are important, that contribute to the well-being and support of your community or your tribe. So it's very, very powerful in terms of family, in terms of who you're taking care of in your community. And it's all about teaching and feeding other people. So, and teaching and feeding and upholding the values also in your relationship, and defending those values and what is most nurturing and nourishing. So you have that as well. And not only that, but the two of you together, because you have the 59-6, Harry, that channel, which is, this is more the feminine aspect of defending and upholding those tribal values and family values, and in this attraction channel and strength that the two of you have in your relationship. And Harry, you also carry this energy of the male aspect of that, which is all about creating intimacy, breaking through into intimate connections, creating babies, and also defending those who are closest to you. So it's very, very beautiful. You probably went into defense mode when Meghan started having struggles within the royal family, which is, and you would do anything at that point because that energy compels you to do anything to take care of those that you love. So that's a very, very beautiful combination, very, very powerful combination to have. So let's just finish up here with a couple of things that you need to be aware of that could be potential challenges within your relationship. And I want to start first just by pointing out one big thing here, and that has to do with, Harry, you have the defined emotional center. You have these fixed waves and cycles of emotions that you go through. There's nothing you need to do about them except to maybe try to become aware of them and ride through them and not make any decisions until you've ridden through your cycles and understand how you feel about things. But Meghan, you have an undefined, you have a totally open emotional solar plexus. So when you are around Harry and he's in one of his, wherever he is in his emotional cycles, you're going to feel that very strongly. You're going to amplify that. You're going to take it in, and you may be compelled at times, especially with this gate 27, to want to do something about it, to be also to experience emotions in a very dramatic way, and perhaps not want to confront them or to at times amplify that emotion to the point where you just can't take it anymore and then dramatic things happen. So just be aware of that, because that can be a real source of potential conflict when you are acting from Harry's emotions, or wanting to do something about his emotions, especially if he's not in a good mood. And the one thing that you need to remember is that if you give him space, it will preserve your integrity, your energetic integrity, and your well-being, as well as allow him that space to work through his emotional waves and cycles as they come. It will create more harmony, or allow for more harmony within the relationship, if you're not always acting out of his emotions. So that's the one thing that really stuck out to me. And the other things are these compromise channels that I briefly touched upon with this. With Harry having the gate 14 and looking for the 2. And as I mentioned, Meghan, you have the 14-2, or the 2-14, however you look at that, known as a channel of the beat. And I explained that earlier, of really having that motorized energy to call forth the activities that create and direct resources for the purposes of individual or mutative or life-changing contribution, creative contribution into the world. So this, whenever there's a compromise channel, there is and the other, one person has the whole channel. That's what a compromise is. One person has the whole channel. The other person just has one of the gates. The person initially, that energy can feel like some of these other channels, which point, these strengths that you have that point to attraction. But in the long run, the person who only has the gate has to kind of surrender to how the person with the channel is living out that full energetic expression. So in this case, Meghan, your the way that you channel the resources that are created within your partnership is something that Harry actually has to go along with. And this is not something, this is not a rule. It's an energetic observation that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. It depends on, first of all, how you're living that out, Meghan, and second, whether or not Harry is actually okay with it. So there could be these places of conflict that never get resolved around how is the money being spent, how are we using our resources, and what direction are we taking with those resources that we're working for. If you're good with how it's going, then there probably won't be any problems, but this is a place within the relationship where you're going to really probably potentially learn how to surrender to that. So just be aware of that. And the other place of compromise is up here where Meghan has the 1156, and Harry, you have the 11. So Harry, you have all of these ideas, and when you're, again, you have the undefined ajna, and Meghan has a defined ajna. So she has this fixed way of thinking, and you're taking that in and amplifying it. You're also taking in other people's thoughts and the way they're thinking and their ideas, and you're amplifying it, and you're coming out with all kinds of ideas. But the person who actually gets to express the ideas through this channel of curiosity is Meghan. So Meghan gets to energetically call the shots on how these ideas are expressed and made manifest. So if your ideas are compatible with Meghan's ideas, and you're on board with the way that she is expressing and telling the story of those ideas, then you're not going to have any problem with that, Harry. But if for some reason you two diverge on that, Meghan's energy is always going to call the shots in this way. It's as though your ideas will, if they're different, will not get a voice. And it's just energetic. It's not like she's being mean or she's doing this on purpose. It's just the way the energy runs. So here again is another place where you have the opportunity, Harry, to learn how to surrender to that. And there is great growth in that, that energy of learning how to surrender. So I think I'm going to leave it at that today. I think that is an overview for you all, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with you the power that is within your relationship to create something new, to create something different, to be a force of influence in the world. And to do the good works, to Harry, for you to be able to create heaven on earth, and Meghan, for you to be able to create the kind of refined home environment that you really desire. So if I were to leave you with a couple of things, I think those things would be that both of you have this tremendous energy to follow your gut. And Harry, you have this tremendous ability to, or potential to really have a depth of emotional understanding around what you are responding to. And as long as you are not initiating and you're waiting for the things in real life to show up for you to respond to. And Meghan, if you give Harry that time for him to work through his emotions around what he's responding to, you'll have a lot of clarity about the direction that you can take as a couple to make your contribution in the world. So I wish you all the best. And again, thank you for this opportunity.